But I happened to be in Australia at this event that Tony Robbins had put on, and so I decided at that event that I was gonna make a top 100 EDM track in 2 weeks. All right, what's up guys? This is HAUMS. I'm just gonna show you guys into my world, into my studio. I'm gonna take you guys along for the experience of how I make music. And my first kind of intuition to really get into music was really in 2019. I'd built up a business and was kind of in a season where it was like, okay, I did this over 10 years. Like, what if I was really intentional about the next 10 years? So I spent some time really just doing some internal reflection and figuring out what that next season stage of life would look like. And the thing that kept showing up was like to do music, but I don't really have a background in music. I don't know how to play an instrument. But I happened to be in Australia at this event that Tony Robbins had put on, and so I decided at that event that I was gonna make a top 100 EDM track in 2 weeks because I was just hopped up on Tony Robbins and just believing that anything was possible. And so the next day I happened to, after the event, going skydiving, and there was a guy there, Rob Gronkowski, that had some connections, and we were chatting about like our experience and I was telling about wanting to make music and get into it, and he was mentioning that he's known this guy for 16 years, this guy at Cascade, Ryan, that I should go fly to LA and produce one of my tracks in his studio that like one of Cascade's producers they're good friends with, they wanted me to connect with. And so I fly to LA and meet with this guy. We make a song in the studio, kind of based on some ideas, my voice on it. It gets picked up by this label in the UK, it goes top 100 for like 2 days, and then falls off the charts. And so that was my like introduction into the dance world. It kind of felt like in the book, it's similar to the book The Alchemist, where it's like life, a whole world starts conspiring to help you when you're on the right path. That's what it felt like. And so that was my first experience. And then I actually had to learn how to produce music, because in order for me to be able to put the intention and things I wanted into it, like I needed to be able to have the skill set. And so really spent the last 5-6 years just diving into it from everything. And then here's this studio that I have now that I get to play in when I want to and create. So we're here at my house. This is my living room, which has also gotten converted into my music studio. So I've been fortunate to have this thing's kind of evolved over time, but through the help of a friend of mine that used to have a studio here in Nashville that moved back to LA, this guy Ransom Jackson, who's a phenomenal artist, producer, who's actually getting into the dance world. So him and I helped build out this studio here, which has been super unique and so fun. We've been doing these writers camps for the record label Quantum Feels, flying in a few guys, making some tracks, and then just doing a lot of collaborations inside of this particular studio, really trying to get back to more of that warm analog sound feel, do a lot of sampling off vinyl, right into Ableton. And so yeah, this is my studio from making music. So I've been getting inspired lately. I was recently in Amsterdam, and I found myself at a Guy J concert. It was fascinating because I walked in, I'm like hanging out, and then he's playing one of my older tracks during the set. Sold out venue. I had to like find a way to scalp a ticket from somebody else online. And the way in which he was playing my own song was like actually showing me how, one, it made me like fall in love with some of my old music, and at the same time was actually kind of showing me how to like play my own tracks, which I thought was like kind of wild and fascinating, which was really interesting. There's another artist called John Hopkins that has this album called The Ritual, which is hands down one of my favorite albums of all time. Like if you want a late night ambient, just get lost in a journey, there's something about that particular album that connects me to this quantum realm that I've been like trying to translate into my own sound, which has been deeply impactful. Yeah, music for me, I feel like I was getting into these like meditative states that were very expansive, and even a lot of the work that I've done personally. And there was a way of talking about it that significantly limited the experiences that I was having. And so I found by being able to take experiences and make songs around them. It was like helping me to be able to present it in a way, and especially then to play it in a live show and see other people connect to that experience. It's like I'm having a conversation about an experience that I had that other people are connecting to, and it just helps me to even just kind of like work through and understand on a deeper level what's happening, what's true, what's not true. I think when I'm making music and stuff isn't translating or it's not connecting, it's because I'm not being authentic with it, or I'm not being as honest as I want to be. And so even for my process and the way that I approach things, there's a lot of producers that I like to work with. I like to collab with people. I find that if I'm just making the song start to finish, oftentimes it's limiting what's possible within it. And so being kind of almost like the conductor of the orchestra, in that I'm finding individuals that are able to like help me move something along or have a style or a way that they're able to communicate something that I can then take and then bring into my own sound and way of being and present the intention that's kind of behind it, is a lot of the way that I operate. So there's different guys that I like to work with on a foundational level to kind of build out concepts and ideas. Sometimes it's me just getting in the studio and working on something start to finish. It could look like me kind of creating something and then having somebody in mind that I feel like would do a better job of telling the story than what I'm capable of within myself. And so the journeys then become this kind of orchestrated thing between me and several different artists. Yeah, I would love to work with more artists in Nashville. That stylistically hasn't translated as much. So there's guys in the Dominican that I love working with, a lot of guys in Europe. I feel like my sound in general is more suited for over there than even Nashville. And so part of me is grateful for Nashville in that it's forced me to like put out really good music, because stylistically this isn't really what they naturally gravitate towards. And so it has to be, in my opinion, it almost feels like it has to be exceptional to even get the attention of somebody here. And so it's kind of pushed me to keep making better and better art because the style isn't exactly what everyone's used to here. And so then what I've noticed when I go to play a show in Tulum or I go play a show in Guatemala, the way it's received is so much more exponential than in Nashville. And I think I'm grateful for the audience and the friends, individuals that I have here. But that's just been, yeah, there's been a lot of awareness to that. Music and art especially has helped me to connect to my own intuition in a way that's allowed me to really be my own guru, as opposed to needing to look to somebody else to tell me how I need to evolve and expand. There's a lot of individuals that I've learned a lot from and benefited from learning from, but I feel like at this point in my life, being able to connect to my own intuition of what needs to happen or ways in which I need to evolve is more impactful and more expansive than me sitting down and going to another course or listening to another person talk about their process and experience. And so with that, I think music has done wonders in that, like, there's these little intuitive pings that happen when I'm making songs or I'm listening to an idea that if it's aligned in a certain way that's authentic and true, it just like resonates, and it's so short and quick that it's caused me to have to be uber present. And I think that presence has allowed me to become more, just aware of what I actually like, what I don't like, who I am, what I connect to. And then to be able to make art that I do feel deeply connect to, and then seeing other people connect to it is a very exponential experience. I think a lot of the inspiration has kind of come from these meditative states that I've gone into. I call this like quantum realm, this quantum field, which is kind of this like scientific realm of manifestation, which when I'm able to drop into these spaces, it's like this place where it's like I can manifest anything, but at the same time I want for nothing. And so being able to take that frequency and sound and bring it into a song that then like in a live show transports people to that place as well is the deeper aspiration of it all. So I mean, there's a concept as above, so below, right? I think it's easy to go off and do these medicine journeys or go do another sound bath and go have this otherworldly experience. But if the process isn't grounded in the end, then you just end up in this kind of like detached reality. And from that, you essentially, like, if you're not integrating the process, then you're going to be disconnected from yourself and the people around you. And this is where I see sometimes in the spiritual world, there's a high that can come from doing this work. And that high is so enticing that you don't want to reground. And by doing so, then you just kind of blow out your third eye and you're just living in this other realm. Where you become God and everybody else is, needing to listen to what you have to say, which is just not appealing. So for me, the process is going into those spaces and then having a way to reground, whether it's through being outside or either just going through the different chakras and landing at the root through the end of the process. And recognizing that we live in a 3D world and I think this is the greatest psychedelic ever, is to be a human. And the more present I am to it, the more lessons I'll learn from that. And there isn't really this overarching need to be anywhere else. So, like, for somebody that wants to be able to live a life that feels very aligned to them and what they feel called to do, I'm fortunate that alignment for me has allowed me to be able to have a lot of comforts. And those comforts, although are beautiful in one right, things you own can end up owning you. And so there is a dance to living in this world and space. So the advice I would give to somebody that's aspiring to evolve into a more aligned lifestyle or even achieve some type of material success is to know, like, the first place of it is to, one, see the success that you already have, because there's a scarcity mindset where you're lost in looking at everything you don't have, which actually just creates more of what you don't have. And then there's this abundant mindset, which is too far of a jump if you're living in scarcity. And so I believe personally, you have to get to the bridge, which is peace, like finding peace with where you're at. And then once you're able to find peace with where you're at, then that's where you can live in this more abundant space, which is, to me, the difference in the two is peace is, hey, I'm okay right now. I have what I need to survive. Abundance to me is that I have what I need now and I'll always have what I need. And that's more of an internal thing where you're seeing value in your own self and your way to create and build things. And this is the same thing is true as to why, like, if you give somebody, several $1 million, they'll end up squandering it, because they're not a frequency match for that type of money. Yeah, I think what I've been most surprised by in life is that all this material stuff, and I know it's been said a million times, it doesn't really mean anything. Like the fact that I could literally go live in Guatemala in a super cheap spot in nature, surrounded by a community of people, and be infinitely happy. That to me is just a reminder that this stuff doesn't matter. And I think the more I've detached from it, the more it's found me. I think there's a law within the universe that, like, the more you're trying to get something, the more it's actually pushing it away from you. I think there's a cosmic balance that takes place. And so if you're constantly striving for material wealth, you may be able to achieve it, but you're actually pushing all these other things out of your life, which are actually probably more meaningful and more of what you're desiring and looking for. And if you're able to wake up every day and do the thing that you've been created to, that your intuition is telling you is what you've been designed to do, I think the universe just rewards you for that. And it may not look like this home. It may look like deep relationships and a very fulfilled life. Yeah, so the newest album, and it's funny because the last album I did, Squaring the Circle, I promised myself I would never do another album because of how exhausting it is. But this one in particular feels really, really meaningful for me in my own kind of personal evolution. And it's related to tarot cards, which the deeper I've gotten into my understanding of, especially related to the major arcanas of tarot, there's 22, and I see it as the best user manual, like human user manual guide to alchemy in life. And I think the more I've been able to sit with these different arcanas, it's actually shown me whether I'm in alignment or out of alignment, or help make sense out of different seasons of my life. And so what I've decided to do is for each of these arcanas, I'm going to be making a song and releasing it to really try to sonically represent what I feel like the card is talking about. And then depending on how far I can take this project, hope to actually bring these characters to life through some animation. And so then I can actually even be interviewing them and having them kind of communicate who they are, what you need to know, what a healthy version, what an unhealthy version looks like. So stay tuned, a lot of really interesting content, album that I'm working on, which I'll be putting out. So feel free to follow on Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll be coming out soon.